Hey guys, I hope everybody's had a good week. I've had a crazy one dealing with union contract negotiations. It's been rough, but all the news has been about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. I hope that our technology works tonight, so y'all bear with us. We've got everything working so far. Each side is spouting propaganda, and the truth is, with our media's track record of misleading information, just outright lies and trying to push their own certain narrative, it's hard at times to know what real truth is. What we can be certain of is that Russian troops have entered into Ukraine, right? We know that. Now, the actual reasons why, now that's anybody's guess. We're being led to believe that Vladimir Putin is this crazy, maniacal, power-hungry dictator. And he very well may be. I'm not defending him, in the least. But do we really know everything about that situation? Do we know everything about the politics and the circumstances between those two countries? No, we don't. We don't know everything. All we know is what we're being fed by the media. He said on Russian television, Putin did, that the United States and Ukraine were working on biological weapons. And of course the media shot him down. Oh, he's just making this up. There's nothing to that. Then Wednesday we see where our State Department Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland stated under oath at a Senate hearing, you might have saw that where Marco Rubio was questioning her. Under oath, she said that biological research facilities have been operating in Ukraine. That's what she said. She admitted it. Further research shows that we've been funding these labs since 2010. That's easy to find once you start knowing where to dig and knowing what to look for. So once you know that, and you know that Fauci was using taxpayer money to fund that lab in Wuhan, China, fact, a lab that either accidentally or intentionally released a virus that's killed millions of people around the world, it makes you think a little bit differently about Putin's claims about the labs in Ukraine, doesn't it? Yeah, we have been funding labs in Ukraine, and we did fund labs in Wuhan, China. So it just kind of makes you, wonder what else may Putin be telling the truth about. He was telling the truth about that. He seems to have been baiting a trap for NATO, like I talked about last week, and they almost fell into it. If you saw that, they almost gave in to what he's been trying to get them to do. When Poland was going to send their warplanes to Ukraine, but they wanted to send them to our air base in Germany first. It's kind of a cowardly thing to do, really. They wanted to send them the opposite direction over to our air base in Germany and then have them flown into Ukraine from that way, so they could say, hey, those planes came from the American air base. We didn't do it. But the plan got deep-sixed pretty quick once everybody figured out what was going on. I don't see what the big difference is. Let's be honest. We're sending thousands of shoulder-fired Stinger missiles over there. And what these Stinger missiles do, a guy holds them and they're heat-seeking and they go take out the plane. They do exactly what another airplane would do. So, I don't see what the big difference is to sending the Stingers compared to sending planes, but we just refuse to do that. Nobody around the world will do it. I could talk tonight about the skyrocketing inflation, 7.9%, and I could continue to talk about the Russian-Ukrainian deal, but I'm sure that you've seen so much of that. I want to talk about something tonight, basically, that I've been promising you guys for a while. I just never took the time to go into it. But I keep saying this. There's just something that just never has added up about this whole thing, right? All the advance notice that Putin gave, the way he's halfway conducted this operation. He hasn't even used his warships along the coast, right? He's supposed to be taking over this whole coastal area, and he's not even using the massive armada of Navy that that he has. He's not really trying to develop air superiority. He's just kind of halfway doing it. And that's why I kept saying I think he's trying to bait NATO. But then my other point last week, if you remember, I said, could this actually be, as far-fetched as it may sound, could this actually be some way to destabilize the markets? Could this be some other type of plot that we would never imagine? So I started doing a lot of digging. I started doing a lot of looking. And I found that wheat prices, wheat is that's the basic thing that every nation around the world uses for food. You make everything out of wheat. And wheat prices, since this Ukrainian thing started, have went up 41% 2 weeks. 41%. Now that may wind up being a bigger deal than oil prices, people. If people start going hungry around the world, you haven't seen trouble yet until that happens. Gas prices, I know you've heard this lie back and forth, but the truth is all you got to do is go back and look, just pull up a trend from 2 weeks and 4 weeks and you find it easily. But the gas prices were going up way before the war in Russia and Ukraine started. And now they've shot up. But what really got me this week was hearing Biden and Jen Psaki blame all of the high gas prices on Putin. That angers me. It angers me that they think so little of the intelligence of the American people that they project these lies and just expect us to believe it. The stock market has dropped 1,800 points in the last month. With all this uncertainty they're projecting around the world, that's to be expected. They're keeping things in turmoil from every avenue, whether it's unrest in the Middle East, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, whether it's the pandemic, North Korea, whatever it is, they're always projecting something to cause unrest. Have you noticed that? It's always something with these guys. And do not give in to the urge. I almost did it today, but I fought back the urge. Do not look at your 401k yet. I've been telling you this for a couple of weeks. Don't do it. You may start sobbing uncontrollably. Just do not look at your 401k. Let's just let things stabilize before we do that, because it's bad. 1,800 points in your 401k is bad. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But CNBC reports the IRS, it came out today, this new article. The IRS plans to hire an additional 10,000 workers. You remember a few weeks ago, I talked about the 12,000 that they had hired. Now they're going to hire 10,000 more. This is their second big hiring push. Now they keep reporting that this need for more workers is because of the tremendous backlog of returns. Now, how many of you guys have filed your taxes in the last year or two and you've not gotten a return, or you've not gotten a bill saying what you owe? We get ours every year. How is there such a tremendous backlog? That's the narrative they're pushing in order to just bloat the federal government more and more with these federal workers. Is what they're doing. There's no way the IRS needs another 22,000. I mean, think about that number. When most people are filing their taxes online, don't believe this stuff. Use common sense. Unless they plan on more audits or something like that. So that's why I've been telling you, keep your receipts, because this is not a good sign when the IRS is adding this many people. I'm not convinced that they'll find enough workers. I saw this and I thought you might find it interesting. Fortune magazine reports that Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon insists now that all employees return to work. They've been working remotely, They got 10,000 employees and only 5,000 showed up when he said you had to come back to work physically. Only half of them. Now, Goldman Sachs is an investment banking firm with their main office in New York City. JP Morgan Chase and Morgan Stanley are also demanding their workers return to in-person work. But companies like Citigroup are trying to keep the hybrid work model. So it's going to be interesting to see, which one of these models actually works out. Are people going to go back to work, or are they going to stay home and work from home? You got two different huge companies trying to decide that right now. According to Markets Insider, investment firm BlackRock has lost over $17 billion since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So I hope that none of you guys has your money invested in Russian stock, or you're in trouble. Newsweek ran an article today where they say that President Trump will be charged for his part in the January 6th riot. Over 2 years, right? This is probably another attempt, I believe, to hurt him economically. Is what they're doing. All these cases have been thrown out. There's no evidence. And they keep bringing this up. And I think it's hurt him economically because of his new social media platform that's about to launch or to continue launching. So that's what they're trying to do, is try to keep people from investing in it. It's all about money, right? But they also had a good report on Newsweek about North Korea is nearing completion of its intercontinental ballistic missile that could reach the United States. Something else to try and keep the markets unstable, isn't it? That's all it is. This is what I want to get to tonight, okay? I'm leaving myself plenty of time. But the more research I do on all this stuff going on, the more I am convinced that I should take my own advice more often when it comes to following the money. So that's what I did. And when I do that, I see something that's going to be hard for you to believe. It was hard for me to believe at first. I've been knowing this for a while, but I finally did some final research on it. Did you know that there are only 3 countries in the entire world that do not have a Rothschilds-owned central bank in them? Only 3. That's Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. If you've done any research or if you've heard any crazy conspiracy theories, there's always something out about the Rothschilds, right? Well, a lot of it's true. They've been the richest family forever, and they control everything. We're going to get to that. Just stick with me. The U.S. Federal Reserve that you're always hearing about, that has the ability to raise interest rates or lower interest rates, did you know that that's a privately owned company controlled by the Rothschilds, Morgans, and Rockefellers? I bet you thought that was the United States government organization, didn't you? The Federal Reserve is not. It's a privately owned company. Okay? Only 5 nations in the world are not part of the World Bank. And Cuba and Iran, it's a couple other ones that you probably wouldn't recognize. But there's only 5 nations that are not part of the World Bank. Okay? Now, what the World Bank mainly does is it lends money to nations. It lends money to the governments, okay? Further digging reveals, along with the World Bank and the Rothschild-controlled central bank, that the Rothschilds control the World Economic Forum. Are you seeing a connection with the Rothschilds and the controlling of the money? We're not throwing conspiracy theories in here. I'm giving you facts, okay? The Rothschild family controls the money of the world. That's just a fact. And for years, they've been pushing for the Great Reset. You know, if you've heard me talk about the World Economic Forum, it becomes pretty clear that they control things. And they've been pushing for the Great Reset. Well, what exactly is the Great Reset, you ask? I'm going to try to explain it to you, okay? Stay with me. I tried to simplify this. In 2020, the World Economic Forum met. They meet once a year, normally in Davos, Switzerland, or somewhere over there. Well, they met and they launched, quote, the Great Reset Initiative to transform the world economy. Now, Klaus Schwab is the executive director of the forum right now. He said, quote, every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. Okay? Now, Hillsdale College did a great study on this. If you want to go there, you can find a lot of this stuff there. They investigated it and did a great article, several articles really. But these guys control all of the money in the world, okay? This is not hyperbole, this is just fact. They control all the money in the world. And the World Economic Forum decides everything. So when they decide something, it will be done. Make no mistake about it. It's going to happen. Now, the idea for the Great Reset actually goes back all the way, I think it's to 1971. But I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of what it truly is. You're going to want some popcorn for this. In 2018, the World Economic Forum, along with Johns Hopkins University, worked on a simulation of a national pandemic response. Got your attention yet? 2018? In 2019, the World Economic Forum teamed up with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on another pandemic exercise. This exercise they named Event 201. It took place 2 months before the COVID outbreak in Wuhan, China. 2 months, huh? Now, these two simulations, exercises that they call them, anticipated every eventuality that eventually took place around the world during the pandemic. So they got everything right, didn't they? From government responses with lockdowns and mandates, the closing of certain types of businesses, widespread riots, and mass unemployment. So was this some type of miraculous simulation that just got lucky on everything? Everything that they said would, could, should, is going to happen is what did happen. Everything. Or was, if they didn't get blind lucky, maybe it was a playbook, right? Maybe it was a playbook for the next stage. You got to think that. You got to look at both options. Either this simulation was the best one that's ever been created in the history of mankind, or this was a playbook for how they're going to do it. In 2017, the World Economic Forum published a paper in which they said, quote, "We need to reset the global operating system to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals." That's a fancy way of talking about addressing climate change. So in 2017 is when they started the big push about climate change. In 2019, the World Economic Forum signed a memorandum with the UN, with the United Nations, to, quote, "develop a strategic partnership for our 2030 agenda, which promises to finance the UN's climate change agenda." It's all in black and white. It's all written down. You can read all of it. And our agenda includes providing assets for a digital governance. Do away with real money, right? We're going digital. You think it's an accident that all these cryptocurrencies have all of a sudden popped up this year, and they're all worth, what is Bitcoin now, $43,000 a share? You think that's an accident? You think it's an accident that every nation from China to Israel is developing their own cryptocurrency? It's not an accident. It was mandated by the World Economic Forum a couple of years ago, and now it has to be done. That's just the truth of it. In 2020, the World Economic Forum published a book titled, and you look this book up online, it's easy to find, COVID and the Great Reset. That's the name of their book. They published it and put it out. They're not trying to hide it. In which Schwab said, quote, "We should take advantage of this unprecedented opportunity to reimagine our world. This moment must be seized in order to take advantage of this window of opportunity." Now, what they did also was they created what they called an ESG index. You got to look that up. It means environmental, social, and governance. Now, this index that the World Economic Forum created provides a type of credit score. That's kind of what it's like, if you want to think about it that way. That will drive ownership and control of production, quote, "away from the non-woke or the non-compliant." That's what they said. Now, this is straight out of their book, folks. I'm not adding anything to it. I'm not ad-libbing at all. I'm reading you what is out of their book. That's what they said. Another way of describing the goals of the Great Reset, I'm still quoting from the book, folks. Another way of describing the goals of the Great Reset is capitalism with Chinese characteristics. A two-tiered economy with profitable monopolies and the state on top, and socialism for the majority below. An acute crisis will contribute to boosting the power of the state. They told us from 2019 and 20 exactly what we just lived through. I hope this gets your attention. They told us exactly what they were going to do, and they did it. And it's still happening. They're still doing it. Oh my goodness. Their model worked so perfectly, did it not? You can look this up online. It's called the Foundation for Economic Education. Their statistics show that millions of small businesses closed down during the pandemic, and 60% are expected to stay closed, while Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google enjoyed record profits. The big monopolies, right? The little guy, the non-woke, the non-compliant, they're out of business. We got to get rid of them. They laid out the playbook, and they did it exactly. They didn't even try to hide it. They actually wrote a book and told us what they were going to do, and then they did it. I could go on and on. I think you get the idea. I could go on for several more pages about the evidence behind the World Economic Forum and their Great Reset and what they have planned and what they're implementing. It's what they're doing. There's a lot of evidence to support the idea that the entire pandemic, now the fossil fuel crash, all of this is part of the intentional playbook of the World Economic Forum to usher in their one world government. It just looks that way. You have to look at that. The promise to redistribute wealth and to save the world from climate change has been and will continue to be the main topics. They're not going to let this opportunity go to waste. They've said it plainly. It's just too much of an opportunity. We have to take advantage of it right now. And the Bible tells us plainly that a one world government will happen, a one world currency, and a one world religion. And the Pope is doing his part to make that last one come true, I assure you. We've talked about that. But this shouldn't worry any of you. I hope it doesn't. I hope that we just understand what's really going on. This is spiritual warfare. We're told that. And we're in the middle of it. I hope it excites you. It does me. When I see this happening, when I see this Bible prophecy just coming true and everything is lining up so perfectly, and then you see how Satan is doing his stuff behind the scenes to work this and how the Lord's allowing it. There's only one thing that I keep thinking of is that we're closer and closer to seeing Jesus. We are so close. I hope it doesn't worry you. I hope it excites you like it does me, and hope you're looking forward to that day to where we get to see our Savior. If you've never asked Christ to save your soul, you should do that today. Don't put it off. None of us are promised tomorrow. I'm going to read you a quick verse from Hebrews 9:27. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this, the judgment. It'll be too late then. I hope that we all know that, and hope I gave you something to think about and to understand what's really going on right now. This is spiritual warfare. Things are playing out exactly like we're told they would. The people that control the money are controlling the events. And that's what's happening. So look it up this weekend. I want to thank y'all for listening. Tell somebody about the podcast if you're enjoying it. Y'all go to church Sunday, and by all means, y'all keep reading your Bible. Thanks, guys.